And welcome to another episode of Experts Speak. I am Michael DeLon. Today I'm talking with Cynthia Maselli. Cynthia, thank you for being here today.
Thank you so much for having me on, Michael.
You are welcome. It is going to be a fun, action-packed episode because Cynthia and I are kind of two peas in the same pod because we are talking about branding and marketing. She runs a company. She's actually positioned herself as the brand strategist, which I love. And we're going to be talking about how can you build an iconic brand and the impact that's going to have in your business. So it's going to be a fun conversation, Cynthia. I can't wait to just dive in. But as we do that, let's just start by answering and letting me ask you, how in the world did you get doing what you're doing today?
It's a fascinating story, mainly because when I first met my husband about 14, 15 years ago, he had always recommended that I start an agency. And I thought, there's absolutely no way I'm going to do an agency. That is a lot of work. I don't know if I have that commitment. And just like all the reasons why I thought I shouldn't do one. So I talked
Yeah.
myself out of it. And then I had a conversation with a friend. I was already a mom at the time, and my son was very, very young. And she kept saying to me, Cynthia, I think you just keep giving free advice. You should have people pay you for this. And I thought, well, I don't know. So I still had my reservations because now I was a stay-at-home mom, and I thought that's a lot of responsibility as it
Yeah.
is. And so I'm not sure if I want to dive into, running a business. And what I thought to do, and after speaking with my husband, which he was very excited and supportive of course,
Right.
I thought, you know what, I'm going to kind of do things a little bit backwards. Instead of setting up the business and investing all this money into the business, I just decided, what if I figure out first if I actually have clients that might be interested now? So I sent out a text message to my network, and I just, told them, hey, I'm going to actually be, offering these services. If you or someone you know would be interested, would you mind passing this along and letting me know? And within that first 2 weeks, I had a full roster for what I could take on at that time. And
Awesome.
truly, it's been word of mouth ever since, which I'm very grateful for. But that is how the brand strategist came to be.
That's awesome. What a great story. And kudos to you for sending that text and taking that leap and going, and asking that question, do people actually want what I'm about to offer? That's brilliant. There's an entire episode right there that we could do on marketing instead of spending hours and thousands of dollars creating something that go, here's what I got, and everybody goes, yeah, next, right? Going out to fill the need. And so, wow, we could do a whole episode on that one topic. So
That is true.
let's talk about the brand strategist. Let's talk about as you frame it, build an iconic brand. Let's unpack that a little bit, just so we've got our listeners on the same page. What do you mean when you talk about an iconic brand as it relates to general business owners, right? We're not talking Nike and Apple. We're talking about me and you and people just like us.
Well, even those brands didn't start out the way that we know them today. So every story, every business, every brand has a beginning. And I think what's really important is how do you set up the foundation in the beginning? Because that is going to be the trajectory of where it can end up being. And so a brand is really the perception that the customers or your target audience has of you and or your business. So whether it's a personal brand or it's a business or a product, a service, whatever it is. And the reality is we actually all have our own personal brand. Because if you were to just think of a few friends off the top of your mind, if I said, who's a friend that you know you can count on? Immediately you're going to have some people come to mind. Or who's the friend that can make you laugh when you're going through something
Yep.
difficult? There's another person that comes to mind. So there are things that we are actually all known for. And the same goes for businesses and products and services. So it really comes down to how do you want to be remembered? How do you want your product or your business to be remembered? And then cultivating the foundation to be able to represent that in the consumer's minds.
Yeah, yeah, it's really good. As you were saying that, I was thinking of this phrase that we bond with brands, and because we have the similarity of values or processes or something, it's like, okay, why do I choose Tide soap over Cheer? Well, it's because I bond with Tide better for some reason. And business owners can do the exact same thing because as we work with brand, and I'd love for you to unpack this a little bit more as you work with your clients, how do you help them discover, or how do you discover that unique brand of that company? Because it's there, it's dormant, but what have you found has really helped business owners come alive in the brand area?
Well, I think starting at the beginning with your authenticity. So, what is it that you want yourself to be known for, or your product or your business? What are the values of your business? What do they stand for? Because as you were describing, like, why would I choose one product versus another if essentially they're the same thing? It comes down to the brand trust.
Yeah,
It's the perception of the brand that creates that trust, and of course, the experience with the brand as well, or the product. And so it's an A to Z process. It's not even just, hey, you need a pretty logo and a pretty website.
right.
Because I've talked with clients before where I've said, I can help you with the perception, the imagery, of what you want your brand or your business to stand for, but I can't work on the back end of the customer experience for you. So if
Right.
that part is lacking for any reason, that is what consumers are going to remember, or customers, and that is probably what they're going to be sharing about more than the, first
That's right.
impression, if you will.
Absolutely. Yeah. You go out to a great restaurant or take your car to a repair shop, and whether the service, the orientation, the customer experience, the repair is done well or not, that's what you're talking about. Not, hey, they had the best looking logo around. Did you see their slogan? It doesn't matter, right?
It's
And
so true.
it is that customer experience that really the brand should involve at every level, right? And what do let's talk about company size, because I work with a lot of companies that are mid-sized to large companies, and some of them think, well, I'm not ready yet. Talk about that.
I think so. It's interesting because I've worked with businesses where they admitted, they even told me, don't look at my website, don't actually look at my logo, even though that's what they're hiring me for. Because they've said, it doesn't look great. I did it, I DIY'd it. But at the same time, they're very successful in what they're doing because I've
Yeah,
explained to them, the reality is I give you a lot of credibility, because you have done the hardest part, which is, in spite of however it looks to people, you have created such a name for yourself that
yeah,
people actually look past that. And there are many brands out there that maybe, you and I would say, I don't know that they're doing such a great job, but they're generating so much money. And then on the flip side, you have some incredibly, you know, um, aesthetically pleasing brands, but they're not making a lot of money. So then what is the issue? And it comes down to, what's the main thing for your business? What is the gist of it? So I think really just recognizing that, you really have to start. I say you have to start with a vision, but you have to have a blueprint. You
yeah,
can't just live up in the clouds of what you hope and you think things, how they'll land. You really have to know, okay, what's the framework for all of this? And what is my end goal? And what does success look like for me or my business? And what do I envision this to become? Because it's okay if you don't want to become a Fortune 500 company. It's okay if you want to keep it a small mom and pop shop,
right.
or just known in your local community for whatever it is that you do, or, those kinds of things. I mean, there's nothing wrong with whatever you decide that you would be happy with at the end of the day. But I think what often happens is people forget that there's always conversation or chatter happening with your brand or your product or your business, and
Yeah,
you can't control that, but you can control what you offer, the way you show up, the way that you engage with your customers, the way that you give them their experience from, first even just looking at your site to
mm,
the end product of them receiving it in the mail, and then the follow up and all of those things in between. So it really is something that should be considered,
mm,
from the very beginning, especially in this brand saturated world that we live in, and the terminology is being thrown around everywhere. So it's not like there's not awareness about branding, I think, or brand, and all of those details about what is a good brand. But it really does come down to understanding what the words mean, understanding, as a business owner, what do I need to learn To a certain degree, because then there are people like you and I that we can come in and we can be hired, and we don't have to become an expert of everything in your business, but it is important to have an understanding of the basics of how a business can be successfully run. And
Yeah.
then at the same time, knowing who to hire and who you need to be able to get your business from point A to point B and so on.
Yeah. And a great, clear, compelling brand I mean, it moves the needle because it helps you cut through all of the clutter that's out there. Going back to my Tide idea is you've got Tide and you've got, Cheer or whatever, but you also have about 50 other dish soaps that are no names. And as I work with financial advisors and attorneys and speakers and coaches, at first they're a no name because they have not identified or created this brand that separates them from everybody else that goes, oh, that's you. That's kind of what we're talking about, right?
Absolutely. It's the brand values. It's what do you want to be known for? And, when I'm looking up certain products, especially cleaning products, I'm very aware of the ingredients. So for me, when I'm shopping, there are specific things that I'm looking for about the product. I'm looking for the ingredients. I'm looking for, of course, the effectiveness, but then I'm also reading the testimonials. I want to
Yeah.
know, does this actually work? Do they deliver on what they're promising? Or is this just another, pretty aesthetic brand that is just one of the dozen out there that you can just go to, and essentially what is it that sets you apart from all the rest? And that's where I think the intentionality, if you can get a head start on it and you have the awareness to know, okay, there's something about this branding realm that I need to know and learn about, then go for it. But then there are those that are success stories that didn't know about it. But I think
Right.
that's the most important thing, is to recognize is that you're kind of responsible for what you know at the end of the day.
That's right.
So it's one thing to just not be aware of it. It's another thing to be aware of it and ignore it. And I think that's why you get such different stories and success stories. Just like the one client that I remember working with, where they had an incredible, and they still have an incredible business, and it became even more successful because the branding matched what they were already servicing,
Yeah.
and or what they were offering their clients that they already loved and they were known for. So it was just kind of the final missing piece for them.
Yeah, and I've seen a lot of companies, especially small entrepreneurial companies, whether they're solopreneurs, family businesses, or whatever. They have actually developed their brand over time, and their brand is what a lot of people would look at and question because it's built around their family, their personality. They're a dog lover. They love fly fishing. They're a pilot. Things of that nature that is just a little bit different than everybody else, but it's enough to go, "Oh, I'm a dog lover too." And it starts that connection. Do you find that as well?
It is, it's the relatability. I mean, it's what is
Great
it?
point.
Again, we never know why someone is going to choose your brand over another. So it's being very clear about your values. And it's also just being able to show up authentically.
Yeah.
That is in alignment with the brand image that you want to create. That's key. It's not just hopping on the latest trend. It is not just doing what everybody else is doing, but
Right.
what is true to your business? What is true to your brand values? What is true to ultimately your target demographic that you're trying to reach and connect with? That is when you start to see the success and the sales, and
Yeah.
then the raving clients that are just like, or customers, you need to go to this person because, and then they list all the reasons why. And it's free marketing, honestly, whenever it's a word of
Yeah.
mouth, and it's still the most effective, powerful form of marketing today.
Absolutely. And when you have a great brand, it just connects with that and it actually helps influence the conversation that's being had, right? I talk a lot to my clients about the Dave Ramseys of the world. Well, Dave has worked a long time to build his brand. And when you say his name, everybody knows who he is and what he stands for. Whether you like him or not, that's a second issue, right? But you know
Absolutely.
what he stands for. You know the audience. You know if you tune into his radio show, what you're going to hear, kind of, and you read his books. And that's what we're talking about. Every business owner can create that over time.
Yeah, it's the consistency. It's staying in alignment with the branding or your brand. Dave Ramsey is known. And the funny thing is that everyone will remember him for a different reason.
Yeah.
And so you just don't get to pick and choose what it is that people will remember you by, but you want to make sure that all the things that you're putting out there are in alignment with your brand and are the most important to your target audience. I think that's the most important thing is you don't want to start connecting with people that you're not interested in drawing to your business if you're a service-based business, or they're not necessarily the ideal customer for your products as well.
That's right. Yeah. And a couple things on that consistency, and I'd love for you to talk about this, is let's say you create a brand for a company and it may have some logo and some colors and but it's got messaging and it's got that DNA of who they are. Propagating that over the different social media platforms and the banners, because I find a lot of business owners don't do that, and they're not getting the idea that their prospects are searching and researching them before they ever reach out, and the importance of that consistency. Do you find that?
Yes. I mean, I think one thing that tends to happen is that we assume that because something's on our website or on our social media post one time or five
Yeah.
weeks ago, that people are remembering it or that they've seen it or that they've read it or that they've paid attention to it. There's a reason why the psychology behind marketing is you have to continue to repeat the same message, even if it feels repetitive for you. But the reality is you don't know where someone's going to come in that's going to find you, whether it's Google, whether it's
Yeah.
social media, one random post, or it's someone that talked about you to them. And so being able to have that consistency is really important, because you need to repeat the core messages, the values, um, to ensure
Oh,
that your messaging is getting out.
absolutely. Over and over again, right? We've had the same brand message, create a book without writing a word for nearly a decade. And it's, I say it all the time. It's just second nature. And then we still get new prospects, or I'll be at a trade show and people are like, what? I've never heard of that. And I'm like, where have you been? But they're new to me, right? They're out doing other things. And so, but the other thing about having that message as a business owner, having that clear brand is you never have to worry about what to say.
Exactly. You don't have to worry about what to say because it's speaking for you. And so
Yeah,
having the consistency, having it repeated in such a way where you can do it in different, ways. It's like having a conversation. You don't have to say the same thing over and over again, but you can in essence say the same thing over and over again. And
absolutely.
always just keeping in mind that everybody is coming from a different background and experience. And sometimes they come with, in my industry, this, um, you don't know who's been burned with a
Right.
bad marketing experience or web design experience. And I've had clients that, are very leery because they've gone through this, even though they trust me and someone's told them about me or they've met me and we've communicated. And so my job is to continue to repeat the same thing to them, letting them know, okay, this is the process and this is what we're going to do. And so I think it's just really also trying to understand who your target demographic is and what their hangups could be about wanting to hire you or about wanting to get your product, and then addressing those in your messaging, because then essentially they're thinking those thoughts, they're having those questions, but you're answering them. So now you just made it one step easier for them to go ahead and go online, add to cart or purchase right there on the spot.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's talk about the process of working with you, because I know there are like lots of people listening to this podcast right now who need what you do, right? Because they just haven't solidified all of that, and they've heard it from conferences, they've read it in books. If they've heard me at all, they know that brand is super, super important. What's the process look like for a business owner coming to you and you working with them? Is it a year-long process, a 2-week process? I mean, give us kind of a high level. What's it kind of look like?
Yeah, absolutely. So I just actually released what's called the Iconic Brand Blueprint. And it's essentially a high level consulting workbook that if someone is still not sure what they want to do next or where to start, I would say I recommend checking out this book, mainly because it has the framework that I've referenced. It has a lot of the questions that I'm asking clients, whether I'm consulting with them, just as a one-on-one strategy, or I'm designing a site for them or their brand identity. So that really gives someone a good starting point, because essentially if someone has that book, it makes it even easier when we're working together, because I could just refer back to certain pages and say, hey, have you looked through this yet? Take a look at all of this. And so I created this beautifully aesthetic, of course, workbook that people would enjoy, not just looking through, but really asking the questions that I honestly was inspired by writing this book because of working with so many clients through the years where they didn't know the questions that they should be asking themselves. And I'm such a, when I'm working with clients, I'm asking a lot of questions because I could easily, and there are many designers out there, strategists out there that can take a brand or a business and then create the brand however they would like or however they see fit. But I am really about making sure that I'm listening to what the client's vision is. And then I can pull all the information, then bring it to life. Because at the end of the day, they need to be really confident about the direction that they see this vision going, not my vision. I can give them a vision, but ultimately, then it would be more of my business than it would be theirs. And so I really am always encouraging clients to share with me all the details. I love feedback. So I always
Yeah.
tell my clients, when we're in the reviewing, whether it's a brand identity and logos or a website, I'm like, you give me the good, the bad, the ugly. What do you like? Because what it does is it gives me insight to what you're drawn to and what you
Yeah.
absolutely hate. I mean, if there are certain geometric shapes that you're like, please don't use these
Right.
on my site in any abstract form or anything like that. I want to hear those kinds of things because I always tell them there are many different options for design. So
Yeah.
whatever I'm using with your project, it doesn't mean that's the end all be all, but typically, depending on what the project scope is and the goals for each client, because they vary, it'll be different in terms of the length of time.
Mm-hmm.
So on average, the brand identity is going to take us several weeks. We
Mm-hmm.
don't do a 24-hour turnaround. We could, but
Sure.
again, because it's all about what is the client's vision for their business, for their brand, we want to listen and we're executing and we're really coming alongside of clients. So my favorite clients to work with are the ones that are not just looking for someone to do everything for them. I can do my part, but I really need the client to do their part, to be able to communicate with me and share with me. And it's a collaboration because at the end of the day, it's very exciting. I'm celebrating with the client when they're just like,
Right.
oh my gosh, I can't believe you brought this to life. This is even better than what I imagined possible. That makes our day, my team and I, right? And so but whether it's a brand identity package or it's a website design or it's a consulting call, maybe it's just, hey, I don't even know where to begin. So
Right.
if they're not interested in the book and they want to start with the one-on-one or they want both, there's different avenues to work with me on because I really want to be able to, have the different various options for
Yeah.
anyone depending the business owner where they're at to allow me to step into their world and be able to help direct them. And if I can, I am always all about connecting people,
Absolutely.
helping direct people. And even when I'm done with clients and their projects, and if I have an idea that comes to mind, or I know someone, maybe it's another client that I've worked with, or someone in my network that I think they could really benefit from just connecting with them. I'm such a giver when I'm working with clients because I know that it always comes back around. And
It does.
so if
100%.
you're just a giver, people are going to be talking about you and sharing. And at the end of the day, I got into this business not because of any dollar signs, for any personal ambition, other than I thought this is a way that I can actually help give back. And I just so happen to have experience in all of these areas that I serve. And so why not be able to help make a difference in business owners because in their lives and in their businesses? Because at the end of the day, running a business is really hard work and it's really easy to just throw money out the door and drain it like water if you're not really sure where to go. And so my hope and my goal is to be able to do that for my clients.
Awesome. Awesome. Where would somebody go if they want this blueprint that you created, or maybe just to connect with you? Maybe have that first call to go, I heard you. I'm not even sure where to go. What's the best way, Cynthia, to take those steps or to get into your world?
Yes, so on my website, thebrandstrategist.co, I have everything offered there, and anyone can go on the online and be able to contact me. Of course, I'm also on Instagram at the moment, so it's at thebrandstrategist.co, keeping it all consistent and making it easier for anyone to be able to find me. And
Shocking.
on the Instagram, I really like to actually offer tips and
Mm,
insights. It's not just my portfolio of work. I will
yeah.
highlight those, but really at the end of the day, I know that there's so much information, especially online and social media, that my goal is to be able to help give valuable, insightful, and true information, not just trendy, popular things that are going to make certain posts go viral. Because I know that business owners are sometimes looking just anywhere and everywhere that they can to find some information and get some direction and clarity.
Absolutely. Well, you're going to find both of those, direction and clarity, when you reach out and connect with Cynthia Maselli, the brandstrategist.co. I'm going to grab that. I'm going to have that in the show notes because, well, my audience are business owners. They're busy. So they're probably listening to this. Go back to the show notes. You can find a way to connect with her and have the conversation. Grab a copy of that blueprint that she talked about. Engage with her. And I'm just telling you, having a clear, consistent brand, an iconic brand, as she says, is definitely going to move the needle. It's really, it's an investment you're going to make one time that is going to last for years and years. It's going to make you a household name, probably faster than most anything else you're going to do. So take the time, do the research, have the conversations, and see how Cynthia can help you. So Cynthia, thank you for what you're doing. Thanks for making the choice to get into this world and help entrepreneurs have a better, a more iconic brand, and teaching them how to build that brand so that they can serve more people too. I appreciate that.
Thank you so much, Michael.
You are welcome. Thanks for listening to Experts Speak. Tune in again next week for another great episode. Take care and God bless.